The southern cassowary is Australia's heaviest bird, weighing up to 76 kilograms. It reaches 1.8 meters in height, becomes second to emus. They are tropical forests birds inhabiting the north-east areas of Queensland. Cassowaries are frugivores and eat fruit that has fallen to the ground. The birds are considered keystone species because of their role as a major seed disperser of up to 238 rainforest species. Without cassowaries, those Gondwana rainforests would not be able to survive. The emu is Australia's tallest native bird and the second worldwide after the ostrich, can reach near 2 meters, weighing around 50 kilograms. They may be flightless, but by golly they can run. With their powerful legs, emus can reach speeds of 50 kilometers per hour. The main habitats of the emu are sclerophyll forest and savanna woodland, very common on the outback. Breed in winter and the chicks, named stripies, are reared by the male from the incubation. Sometimes they can be seen in big numbers drinking in ponds, individually. The emu is found only in Australia and is immortalised on the coat of arms together with the kangaroo. The Australian brush turkey inhabits rainforests and wet sclerophyll forests, but can also be found in drier scrubs. He eats anything, especially people's scraps left on parks and forests, campsites and parking sites. Does not build nest but a mound where eggs incubate at the precise temperature, here beginning to build one. The orange-footed scrubfowl is a large grey-brown bird with a pointed crest on its head and massive orange legs and feet. Resident on the floors of tropical rainforests in northern Queensland. This species builds mounds like the previous one. The California quail is a small ground bird. They have a distinctive teardrop-shaped crest made of 6 feathers. The California quail is native to Western America, but has been introduced to numerous other countries. In Australia, it is found on King Island. The Indian peafowl is not native to Australia, but a species from India, which was brought to Australia during the colonial period by the British. The unmistakable iridescent blue male spreads out its ornamental upper tail feathers when courting females. The magpie goose has a black neck and head, with a characteristic knob on the crown, larger in males, which increases in size with age. Differs from most waterfowl in having strongly clawed toes that are webbed only on their basal halves. The magpie goose is widespread throughout coastal northern and eastern Australia. The plumed whistling duck is one of 2 whistling or tree ducks found in Australia. Large, pale duck with protruding cream-coloured plumes on flanks. Stands tall and proud in large flocks around the edges of lakes, ponds, dams, or in nearby agricultural land. They have long necks and legs and look like a cross between a goose and a duck. These ducks have a strong head and neck with a darker crown and hind neck. They mainly feed on grasses, water lilies, water plants, and occasionally insects and aquatic vertebrae. The freckled duck has very finely speckled dark grayish duck with a dark eye and an obvious peaked crown. Breeding males have a red base to their bill, as the one shown. Generally uncommon, found beside inland waterholes and ponds. These are bulky geese and their almost uniformly grey plumage, bearing rounded black spots, is unique. The tail and flight feathers are blackish and the legs are pink with black feet. This bird feeds by grazing and rarely swims. Their ability to drink salt or brackish water allows numbers of geese to remain on offshore islands all year round. Black swans are widespread throughout much of Australia and occur wherever there is a wetland, from river estuaries, bays and Great Lakes to inundated pasture and water meadows. Where the wetlands are permanent, they remain there throughout the year. Large black and white duck with obvious pale eye, pale bill, and chunky pale-coloured legs. Found in plenty in coastal tropical Australia, northern Australia, Papua New Guinea, and parts of Indonesia. They are most comfortable living in areas with mangrove flats and paperbark tree swamps with a strong, wet season. Large rusty brown and black duck with extensive white in wings. Sometimes congregate in flocks of more than 1,000 birds, especially when molting, and usually occur at large or deep wetlands, or in grasslands, pasture or crops. Usual range is southern Australia, both east and west, these filmed in Tasmania. The Australian wood duck has adapted to modified environments to thrive and survive. They are found on farms, ponds, swamps, lakes, parks, golf courses, paddocks, even seen on the streets. It is a goose-like duck, small. Males have the head dark brown, females have paler head with 2 white stripes. The pink-eared duck is a small duck with a huge square-tipped grey bill and strongly barred brown flanks. The highly specialized bill is fringed with fine grooves to filter out the microscopic plants and animals which make up the bulk of its diet. Tiny duck. Male has dark green head and neck with a white cheek flash. Female lacks the dark head and neck, but has a strong dark eye line continuing back to nape. Usually found in tropical freshwater wetlands across northern Australia, filmed near Townsville. The grey teal is unsurpassed by any other Australian waterfowl in terms of migrations. Responding to rain or the lack of it, they cover long distances in search of water, even in the desert. It is one of the few species of Australian ducks that can tolerate habitats with highly saline water. They regularly occur in estuaries, inlets, exposed mudflats, coastal lagoons, salt marsh and evaporation ponds at saltworks. They can also occur at freshwater wetlands. Mallards were first released in Australia in the 1860s, and their range has expanded a little in southeastern parts of the country. They can interbreed with native species, especially Pacific black ducks. Probably the most common duck in Australia, with the exemption of the desert areas. Usually seen in pairs or small flocks and readily mix with other ducks. In the wild, birds are often very wary of humans and seldom allow close approach. In urban ponds become quite tame, however. Chocolate brown diving duck with white rump and large white panels in the wings. Male has white eyes. Female is slightly paler with dusky eyes. The name hardhead has nothing to do with the density of the duck's cranium, but stems from early taxidermists who found that the head was the most difficult part of the duck to process. The male has a slate blue bill which changes to bright blue during the breeding season, hence the duck's common name. The bluebill duck inhabits natural inland wetlands and also artificial wetlands, such as sewage ponds, sometimes in big numbers. It can be difficult to observe due to its cryptic nature. Seen in freshwater ponds, diving continuously for aquatic vegetation. In the images, giving the last touches to a nest built on floating vegetation. The white-headed pigeon is a large pigeon with a distinctive white head, neck and breast, which sometimes have an orange or greyish wash. The eye ring is pink to dark red, and the legs and feet are also pink-red. Since they were introduced into Australia in the 1860s, spotted doves have been very successful, expanding their range greatly to occur right along the east coast, as well as in parts of South Australia and Western Australia. Large brown pigeon with a long tail. Feeds on fruits and seeds in forest trees, but is occasionally seen walking on the forest floor. Calls strong and profound. The name comes from the emerald green back. Walks on the forest floor, gives a series of solemn-sounding hiccuping coos. Native to Australia and one of the country's most common pigeons, the common bronzewing is able to live in almost any habitat, with the possible exception of very barren areas and dense rainforests. Also endemic to Australia, the bronze reflections are more varied and beautiful than the common bronzewing. One of the two species that possess an erect crest. The wings are barred with black and are decorated with glossy green and purple patches. Grey head, very abundant. Produces a whistling sound when the air passes over a primary modified feather on the wing. The other crested pigeon, an inhabitant of the outback, a very ornate and attractive bird. Tiny grey dove with heavy barring on neck and chest. With a pale blue eye-ring, very shy. Her call seems to be saying, bonobo, bonobo. Her call seems to be saying, Papua Papua. The bar-shouldered dove is native to Australia and southern New Guinea. The dove has a blue-grey breast with checkered brown-bronze wings. It is protected under the National Parks and Wildlife Act 1974. Large, ground-dwelling, grey bird with distinct white V on chest. It is mainly grey above, with a pale face, lives in dense coastal forests, rainforests and scrubs. It is often seen in clearings near forests. Enormous colourful rainforest pigeon with green upper wings and back, and a pale grey head. Common in rainforests along the east coast of Australia, as well as New Guinea. Calls frequently with a loud explosive warm poo. One of the most beautiful in Australia, a spectacular mixture of purple, burnt orange, green and blue-grey, sprinkled with black spots. This individual was filmed in an aviary. The rose-crowned fruit dove is a small, compact dove, with a short tail and rounded wings. Its name comes from the deep pink cap or forehead, which is bordered behind by a narrow yellow stripe. The pied imperial pigeon is a large, distinctive black and white pigeon, mostly white, but with black on the outer parts of its wings and on its tail tip. It is found on the tropical parts of Australia, from west to east. Large grey pigeon with a swept-back crest that is grey in front and rusty red behind, giving the head a unique shape. Found in rainforests and nearby wet forests and woodlands, especially along moist sheltered gullies. The tawny frogmouth is a species native to the Australian mainland and Tasmania, and found throughout. It is a big-headed, stocky bird, often mistaken for an owl, due to its nocturnal habits and similar colouring. The Papuan frogmouth is the largest of frogmouths in terms of length. Average sizes indicate that it only falls behind the neotropical great patoo, an oral bird among the largest spays in the order Caprimulgiformes. The little penguin is the smallest species of penguin. It grows to an average of 33 centimeters in height and 43 centimeters in length. It is found on the coastlines of southern Australia and New Zealand, with possible records from Chile. Anhinga species are found all over the world in warm shallow waters. Anhinga, snakebird, darter, are common names to describe them. The main feature is that they dive to catch fishes, stabbing them with the beak, to later swallow them. The little pied cormorant is one of the most common of Australia's water birds, occurring on water bodies of almost any size. The little pied cormorant resembles the pied cormorant, but is easily distinguished by its smaller size and proportionately shorter bill. As its name suggests, the great cormorant is the largest species of cormorant in Australia. Its plumage is mostly black with a slight greenish sheen, visible only in good light. Might be confused with the great cormorant, but is noticeable smaller, 2/3 of its size, completely black and has a thinner bill. Large black and white cormorant with a long ivory-colored bill. Note black trousers that help distinguish it from little pied cormorant, which also has a shorter yellow bill. It is among the biggest pelicans. They have a very large wingspan around 3 meters, and the hugest pouched bills, that can hold more than 10 liters of water in its 50 centimeters length. They do not dive like others, simply float and catch. A tall long-necked wading bird in the stork family. It is a resident of Southeast Asia, with a disjunct population in Australia. In the images capturing a snake in North Queensland, near Mount Molloy. Large dark grey heron with white head and neck. Typically has dark legs. Usually found near water. Often seen singly, but also occurs in large scattered groups while foraging in damp paddocks and grassland. There are big egrets all over the world, in all continents. This is Australia's subspecies. An elegant water bird wading the banks of wetlands, remaining motionless spotting the prey till it pounces. Usually very shy. A stocky egret that is larger than cattle and little egrets, but smaller than the great egret. Things to look for include a yellow bill that is shorter than great egret, but longer than cattle egret, a relatively rounded head, and shorter legs than great egret, approaching cattle egret. Another cosmopolitan egret, normally feeding on invertebrates that are visible when cattle feed on paddocks. Here in a heronry with breeding plumage. A very widespread small heron, common across much of the globe. Small size and overall grey colour separates from most other herons and bitterns. This one was filmed on Cairns Esplanade looking for prey on low tide. The pied heron is a small dark blue-grey and white bird with a crest plumes. The crest plumes, back plumes and neck plumes are all longer during breeding. Pied heron range across northern Australia, New Guinea and Indonesia. Very common throughout Australasia, whether looking for prey among the grasses, or on banks of wetlands, or on seashore. Another cosmopolitan egret, easily recognized for its yellow feet, small size and the gracious way of jumping in all directions following the prey, till she gets it. They usually inhabit rocky shorelines and coral islands and reefs, where they forage for fish, crustaceans and mollusks by using a mixture of stealth and surprise. Occurs along most of Australia's coastline except in Victoria and Tasmania. The glossy ibis has a widespread international range, but has encountered a niche also in Australia. It gets its glossy title from an iridescent green and purple gloss that is visible in the right lighting. Feeds mostly on ponds and wetlands. The more widely known ibis is the Australian white ibis, once believed to be related to the African sacred ibis, but it is an Australian native bird. They tend to be opportunistic scavengers, are spread in urban areas like pigeons are in other main cities in the world. Here's some shots in parks and wetlands with its natural behavior. The straw-necked ibis is widespread across much of the Australian mainland, as well as other regions outside the continent. The name comes from the yellow throat plumes on its neck. It also has a glossy blue-black back and wings with metallic shine colors. The straw-necked ibis has earned its nickname of farmer's friend by feeding on grasshoppers and locusts. The royal spoonbill is a large white water bird with black, spatulate bill. When they are breeding, they develop a lush crest of white feathers from the back of their heads, and colored patches appear on the face. The royal spoonbill is a carnivorous aquatic bird, catching crustaceans, fish and small insects by sweeping its bill through shallow water and swallowing prey once detected. Similar in shape to the previous one. White water bird with a yellow face and spatulate bill, yellow bill, legs and feet. Australian subspecies. Adapted from the only species spread all over the world on coastal areas. Here nesting in an artificial pole, especially designed for the purpose, in Wynnum, Brisbane. Small, grey and white raptor with black shoulder patches. Perches on exposed branches and dead trees. Common in agricultural areas and around the edges of towns. The distinctive call of the whistling kite is, unsurprisingly, a clear whistle, which begins by descending down the scale, followed by an upscale staccato chatter, given by birds as they fly overhead or when perched. A medium-sized raptor with a rounded tail unlike other kites. Restricted to coastal wetlands in Australia, where it is alternately known as red-backed sea eagle. Filmed in Cardwell. The collared sparrowhawk is a medium-sized, finely built raptor with wide staring bright yellow eyes. The upper parts and side of the head are slate grey, with a complete chestnut half collar. Filmed in Kakadu. The wedge-tailed eagle is the largest bird of prey in Australia and is also found in southern New Guinea. It has long, fairly broad wings, fully feathered legs, and an unmistakable wedge-shaped tail. Filmed in Tasmania. The brown falcon is one of the most widespread birds in Australia. They are most commonly seen perched on power poles, or hovering or flying back and forth over open habitats, especially grasslands and low shrublands. Filmed in Uluru. The Australian hobby, also known as the little falcon, is one of 6 Australian members of the family Falconidae. This predominantly diurnal bird of prey derives its name Longipennis from its long primary wing feathers. Brolgas can be found across tropical northern Australia, mainly throughout Queensland. They feed and breed in open wetlands, coastal mudflats and irrigated croplands, occasionally visiting estuaries and mangrove creeks. The purple swamp hen has a resplendent purple-blue neck, breast and belly, and a gaudy, oversized bill and frontal shield. Found in almost any wetlands in Australia, shown feeding chicks with vegetal matter after shredding it first. Occasionally seen as it quickly dashes between clumps of rank grass, sedges, rushes or other overgrown vegetation, the buff-banded rail is often otherwise difficult to observe as it skulks about, concealed by plant cover, though its harsh squeaks may reveal its presence. White-browed crakes are widespread overseas, as far away as Africa, but in Australia they are limited to the tropical north, usually near the coast. They clamber quite well through the reeds and their large feet also allow them to forage out into the open on floating vegetation. The black-tailed native hen is widespread throughout mainland Australia. It is found near permanent or ephemeral terrestrial wetlands in low rainfall areas, in both fresh or brackish water. Native hens only live in northern and eastern Tasmania, near marshes, river flats, freshwater streams and rivers. Native hens are one of 12 Tasmanian endemic bird species. The dusky moorhen is a medium-sized, dark navy-black water bird with a white undertail. It has a red bill with a yellow tip and a red facial shield. It is widespread in eastern and southwestern Australia. The Eurasian coot, with its sooty black plumage and gleaming white bill and frontal shield covering its forehead, is a familiar bird across Europe and Asia as well as Australia. The Australian bustard is one of Australia's largest birds. It was once widespread in open habitats across much of mainland Australia. They are still widespread in the north, but are increasingly rare or extinct in the south. The bush stone curlew or bush thickney is a large ground-dwelling bird endemic to Australia. The favoured habitat is open plains and woodlands, where they stalk slowly at night in search of invertebrates such as insects. The night screechy sound is hard to miss. Beach stone curlews feed mostly on crabs, hammering them open and sometimes washing them before swallowing. With its striking black and white plumage, vivid red bill and evocative piping call, the Australian pied oystercatcher is familiar to many people who visit our beaches. The species occurs around almost the entire coastline of Australia, inhabiting sandy beaches and mudflats. The sooty oystercatcher is a striking black shorebird with a long red bill, red eye and pink legs. It is endemic to Australia and is widespread in coastal eastern, southern and western Australia. Striking and essentially unmistakable, with elegant shape, boldly pied plumage, long hot pink legs, and long, very fine bill. Feeds by wading in water, picking with its bill from the water surface. In flight, long pink legs stick out far beyond tail. The red-capped plover is the most common and widespread of Australia's beach-nesting shorebirds. They occur along virtually the entire Australian coastline, but they also occur in great numbers inland, especially around salt lakes. The black-fronted dotterel is a small wader, with a distinctive black face mask and breast band and prominent chestnut scapulars. Is found in the shallow margins of wetlands, lakes, rivers, sewage farms, storm drains and marshes. It is normally always near freshwater, and is not often seen on the coast. Elegant lapwing with a white stripe through eye, a red wattle in front of the eye, and a thick and complete black breast band. Smaller and shorter-legged than masked lapwing. Not generally an urban bird, it is more common inland. Noisy lapwing with a large yellow wattle across forehead and hanging over the bill. As noisy as its counterpart in the Americas, doing the same job of signaling a threat to the animal community by its screech sounds. The cone-crested jacana, also known as the lotus bird or lily trotter, is the only species of jacana in the genus Iridopara. Like other jacana species, it is adapted to the floating vegetation of tropical freshwater wetlands, where walks on the surface with its gigantic fingers. The Australian painted snipe is small freshwater wader, with a long bill that droops slightly at the tip. Listed as endangered due to pollution, predation by mammals, burning of wetlands, invasive plants and drainage of breeding sites in wetlands. Intricately plumaged button quail with dark red eye, found in dry woodlands where it feeds by making circular scrapes among deep leaf litter. Pale spots and streaks on chest, belly, wings, and flanks. Largest tern in the world, widespread, but typically uncommon. Thick, bright red bill is distinctive, most have small dark marking near the tip. A large elegant tern with a very long lemon yellow bill. Black cap does not extend down to the bill. Juvenile is scaly looking with much more black on the back and wings. Australia's largest gull, the Pacific gull, occurs only along the coasts of southern Australia. Despite its name, the species is seldom seen on the Pacific coastline and is far more common on the beaches bordering the Southern and Indian Oceans. The species became established in Australia in the 1940s, and their populations increased and range expanded greatly in the 1960s. They are now recorded on the coasts of all states. Small grey gull with red legs, Adult has red bill, younger birds have a darker bill, white head and body, pale grey silver wings, which have prominent black and white tips. Man has turned this bird into a plague, feeding them and leaving scraps of food where she can access it. Now they aggressively dive into people eating near beaches. The red-tailed black cockatoo is mostly glossy black and has an erectile crest which forms an obvious helmet when raised and pushed forward. The male is glossy black with bright red panels in its tail. The yellow-tailed black cockatoo is a large cockatoo found from South Australia to central eastern Queensland in a variety of habitat types, but favours eucalypt woodland and pine plantations. The Major Mitchell's cockatoo is a small, largely white cockatoo with pink on the sides of its head, around its neck, on its underbody, and under its wings. The crest appears white when folded, but when raised and spread it has a broad red band with a through the middle. The Gala is an unmistakable cockatoo native to Australia. The pink rose-grey colours and its behaviour are unique. The Gala has a head crest that fans out when the bird is frightened, excited or calling out for attention, sometimes accompanied by a resonating screech. Medium-sized white cockatoo with a small crest and an extremely long, pointed upper mandible. Body entirely white with pink patches around eye and chin. Typically occurs in grassy habitat and is often seen feeding in parks or sporting grounds. Small, vocal white cockatoo with an erectile crest. Primarily white with a small pink patch in front of the eye. Very conspicuous and often forms large, noisy flocks around water sources. Well known for its comical antics, they often appear to play with one another. It has a dark grey-black bill, a distinctive sulphur yellow crest, and a yellow wash on the underside of the wings. The screech of the sulphur-crested cockatoo can be heard in many parts of eastern and northern Australia. They are found in a variety of timbered habitats and are common around human settlements. The cockatiel is now classified as the smallest of the cockatoo family. They are native to Australia, widespread in the interior of the continent. The striking colours, his aggressive territorial behaviour, the high-pitched sounds, the tireless search for food and their abundance, make the rainbow lorikeet unique, unmistakable among all species of Australian parrots, the real joker of the avian world. The rainbow lorikeet mostly forages on the flowers of shrubs or trees to harvest nectar and pollen, but they also eat fruits, seeds, and some insects. The scaly-breasted lorikeet's beak and eyes are red, and it is the only lorikeet with an all-green head combined with a red beak. The smallest of all parrots, also known as two-eyed fig parrots, blue-faced or red-faced fig parrots. They inhabit primarily the island of New Guinea, but isolated populations are also found along the tropical Australian coast, east of the Great Dividing Range. The eclectus is the most distinctive example of sexual dimorphism in the bird world. In fact, for many years, biologists believed that male and female to be two different species. The male is mainly green, while the female is a bright, ruby red. Males are polygamous and females polyandrous. Male Australian king parrots are the only Australian parrots with a completely red head. Females are similar to males except that they have a completely green head and breast. King parrots are normally encountered in pairs or family groups. Bright pale green parrot with a red shoulder patch. Note blue rump in flight. Male has black back. Occurs in a wide variety of habitats, where it feeds primarily in trees. Red-winged parrots are widespread in northern and eastern Australia. Large, elegant green parrot with long pointed tail, found in inland New South Wales region. Feeds on ground, including roadsides. Large, long-tailed, distinctive parrot of open inland areas with scattered woodlands, where it breeds in hollows of large trees. When perched, note greenish-yellow body, black wing with red and yellow patches, and red bill. The princess parrot is one of Australia's least known parrots, because it is so elusive, even though it is spread across the interior. This species was filmed in an aviarium in Alice Springs. The green rosella is only found in Tasmania. It has a dark mottled color on its upper body, with a striking yellow head and belly, that is very obvious when it is flying. The crimson rosella is probably the most easily recognized rosella, with its red, blue, and black coloring. It makes a characteristic cussit-cussit call. It is seen feeding on the ground and frequenting feeders. We were lucky to catch one feeding on apples near the Ebeya Falls. The plumage of the eastern rosella is especially vividly colored, red and yellow with blue, green and black. Despite their bright colors, their plumage is patterned, so that it creates an extremely effective camouflage. Pale-headed rosellas feed mainly on the ground, but also in trees and shrubs. They feed more often in shade than in sunlight. They also frequent feeders. The Australian ringneck is a large parrot, differing in size and plumage in different regions. There are 4 subspecies in 2 main groups. All are mostly green, with an obvious yellow band on the hind neck. Bluebonnets live in arid and semi-arid areas, on plains with low shrub layers, such as saltbush, and sometimes scattered trees or open woodland. Filmed in the outback. Medium-sized slender parrot. The male has an emerald green head and neck, bluer-green back, red rump and lower back, and yellow underparts. Book's parrot is a small parrot, which is mostly grey-brown above and pinkish below. It has a prominent area of white around the eyes, giving a spectacled appearance. The mulga parrot is endemic to arid scrublands and lightly timbered grasslands in the interior of Australia. The male is multicolored, from which the older common name of many-colored parrot is derived. A large cuckoo, distinctive in all plumages, but usually secretive, keeping to the interior of dense trees in many habitats. The female is much more attractive, brownish on the crown and has rufous streaks on the head. The back, rump, and wing coverts are dark brown with white and buff spots. Apart from the channel-billed cuckoo's large size, its massive pale, down-curved bill, grey plumage, darker on the back and wings, and long barred tail make it difficult to confuse it with any other bird. The fan-tailed cuckoo has a slate-grey head, back and wings, rufous underparts, and barred black and white tail. Its eye is surrounded by a yellow orbital eye ring which helps to distinguish it from the smaller and palette brush cuckoo. Adult barking owls are grey-brown above, with white spots on the wings, and whitish below, heavily streaked with grey-brown. The head is almost entirely grey-brown, and the eyes are large and yellow. The southern boobook is the smallest and most common owl in Australia. It is identified by its plumage, which is dark chocolate brown above and rufous brown below, heavily streaked and spotted with white. A subspecies of the cosmopolitan barn owl, found all over the world, the most widespread of all species of birds. A medium-sized owl with a white heart-shaped facial disc. The body is sandy orange and light grey above, and white to cream underneath. The cackle of the laughing kookaburra is actually a territorial call to warn other birds to stay away. The biggest kingfisher that does not eat fish, but a variety of vertebrates and invertebrates. Immortalized in songs, stories, tales, and Aboriginal legends. Occurs across northern Australia in a variety of woodland habitats, including parks and gardens. Often perches on power lines. Its call is quite different to the laughing kookaburra, typically a loud rolling squawk and various loud yapping sounds. Forest-living kingfisher, with a white belly and vibrant multi-tone blue wings and back. Note bright white spot in front of the eyes that does not extend back over the eye. It has a turquoise back, turquoise blue rump and tail, buff white underparts and a broad cream collar. There is a broad black eye stripe extending from bill to nape of neck. The rainbow bee-eater is a spectacular bird. With its green, blue, chestnut and yellow plumage, its slim build, slender curved bill, and distinctive streamers that extend from the end of its tail, it is simply beautiful. The dollar bird gets its unusual name because it has a large, prominent white spot on each wing, visible when the bird is in flight. These spots were considered to resemble silver dollars.